Well, just 5 games into the current campaign, and Bayern München's women already find themselves in a potentially season-defining encounter. A spot tonight in the UEFA Women's Champions League group stages is up for grabs, and the good news for the hosts is that thanks to Lea Schuller's goal last week, they have a 1-goal advantage as they welcome Real Sociedad to the Bayern Campus. Good evening and welcome one and all to live coverage of this decisive Champions League qualifier. My name is James Thorogood. I'll be your match commentator as we look to see whether Bayern can keep their winning streak going. Alexander Strauss's side come into tonight's game with confidence on their side, but also with a point to prove after they squandered several chances in the first leg against tonight's opponents. Strauss even admitted yesterday that had his side been more effective in Spain, that the tie would already have been decided. Nevertheless, Bayern forward Linda Dahlmann, who hit the post in the first leg, isn't nervous despite the narrow lead, and she said that she has a very, very good feeling as Bayern look to meet expectations by booking their ticket to the Women's Champions League group stages. The two-time semi-finalists want to go one better than last season when they were knocked out in the quarter-finals by Paris Saint-Germain. But they have to clear the first hurdle tonight against a Real Sociedad side who finished second in the Primera División last season, but who have also made a patchy start to the current campaign with just 1 win, 1 draw and 1 loss from their first 3 games. Nevertheless, Linda Dahlmann does believe that the key to success lies in the minds of the Bayern players, and she said that she thinks that they can sometimes be a bit overcritical. Despite all the self-criticism, Bayern are looking to build on a strong 3-0 win over Bremen at the weekend as they continue to find their feet under new head coach Strauss, who has admitted that it's going to be a bumpy road, but said it's important to get the results that Bayern need, and that does start tonight with a game in the Champions League qualifiers for a place in the group stages. Tess Olofsson, our referee tonight. Things got a little bit feisty between these two sides in the first leg, but it also calls for a little bit more aggression from the Bayern side, from head coach Alexander Strauss. He said he was happy with that win, but not satisfied with the performance, felt his team didn't have enough control and gave the ball away a little too cheaply on occasion. Said that they need to do a better job tonight of finding solutions. Bayern without their captain tonight as well, with Sarah Margul out after testing positive for COVID. The result, it's Sarah Zadrazil with the captain's armband tonight. She herself has only just made a return from a spell in quarantine. Let's take a look at the team news, and for the visitors, head coach Natalia Arroyo has kept faith with the side that almost snatched a late equaliser in front of almost 12,000 fans in San Sebastian as she makes no changes. Real Sociedad only produced 1 shot on target in the first leg, but did prove capable of posing a threat in front of goal, with captain Nerea Isagire, a player Bayern will want to keep quiet tonight. Last season's top goal scorer, meanwhile, Amari Sariegi, once again has to settle for a place on the bench. Well, there is one final ticket to be booked for the UEFA Women's Champions League group stages as Bayern München look to capitalise on a slender first leg advantage against Real Sociedad tonight at the Bayern Campus. James Thorogood, your match commentator for this decisive Champions League qualifier. Bayern, thanks to that goal from Lea Schuller last week, do have that narrow advantage to defend here on home soil. And while head coach Alexander Strauss did admit it was an advantage, that a draw would be enough tonight, there was no sense of Bayern or their players wanting to settle for a draw against the side that finished second in the Primera División last season. Julia Gwyn staying touch tight. Certainly the way that Bayern want to play under Alexander Strauss. They want control of the game, but a loose touch there from Georgia Stanway. Type of sloppy mistakes that Strauss was wanting his side to cut out tonight. Georgia Stanway, certainly a player whose touch doesn't regularly let her down. There is Alexander Strauss. He has come in and tried to put his own stamp on this Bayern side. Hasn't been easy either, given that he had a fair few of his regular first-team players featuring in the European Championships in England during the summer. As a result, he didn't have as much time to really work with his full squad as he looks to implement a new approach and a new philosophy. Interesting tonight, we went through the team news for Real Sociedad. I can tell you that there are 2 changes to Alexander Strauss's starting lineup, and it also includes a switch in formation as well compared to the first leg against Sociedad. Tonight going with a 4-3-3 formation by the look of things, as opposed to the 3-4-3 that was deployed in Spain. And I'll hold the thought there as Lea Schuller looks to apply the early press. And that's certainly a feature of Bayern's game last season and this season under Strauss, but his counterpart there, Natalia Arroyo, and she said that this was the most important game of the year for her side, but said that she felt that they had the weapons to produce a comeback. Given the amount of chances that Bayern did miss in that first leg, they left the door open for Real Sociedad to sneak an equaliser. It almost happened in the dying embers of the game as well. Throwing on that far side with Maximiliano Raul. Looking for the flick on in the middle there was Schuller, and now Sociedad will look to work it out from the back. Oh, they've won it back well here, though, Bayern, and it's a good shot as well from the captain, Zara Zadrazil. And they're trying to keep the chance alive here, the home side. They applied the press, they forced the mistake out of Sociedad. Zadrazil heavily involved. Heel that gave it away on the edge of the area in the end, but now Sociedad can clear their lines. Jensen will give chase. Gonna have a tough time of it up against the young Brazilian Tainara, signed from Bordeaux in the summer alongside Glodis Vigostotia. That's a searching pass over the top. And, well, Elena Leite came for it. But the offside flag was already up. Sociedad trying to play their way out from the back, showing confidence in their build-up play. Strauss certainly demands a pretty high-intensity press from his Bayern side. They won it back well there and draw the foul in midfield. Kvin does well to keep that in play. Schuller scrapping away on the sidelines. I'm not sure that one went out either. So the throw-in goes the way of the home side.
Transition, come on!
Plenty of communication going on amongst the players. But interestingly, one of the big changes that took place at the club this summer is that the predominant language now used is English, and it was Lea Schuller in a podcast that I was listening to before the game that talked about that being one of the big changes under Strauss. Schuller also talked about the fact that he likes to play a different system, preferring that 3-4-3 I was talking about. She said there are new demands and it was hard to settle into after the European Championships. Not an ideal time for a change of head coach, but football rarely cares about timing. Brazil does well to cover and now tries to wriggle free. Bayern not rushing the vertical passes. That was a lovely pass and a lovely touch off from Lea Schuller. Sydney Lohmann into support. She's got Schuller to her left, bending a run. And here is Lea Schuller. Oh, tucks it away magnificently. Bayern have the lead. Or not, actually. The offside flag was up. So the pass from Sydney Lohmann coming just a little too late in the end. Let's take a look at this. It must have been tight. Oh, to be a linesman without the video assistant referee. Not fun, not easy. And that was the finest of margins. Lea Schuller looking to add to her goal from last week. That is the difference between the two sides as things stand in this tie. And it's worth noting as well that her next goal would be her 50th in all competitions for Bayern. Tonight in her 68th appearance for the club since signing from Essen back in 2020. Touch there from Marla Gross, the goalkeeper. Sydney Lohmann does well under pressure. Now they can play it out with Vigorstotir to Kvin. Looking for the pass down the line again. Schuller, the willing runner, excuse me. Bit of a high foot there from Sydney Lohmann, but nothing given by the Swedish referee. Brazil, lovely little run from Linda Dahlmann. And once again, Bayern able to arrest possession back from the visiting side. Here's Julia Kvin. Scored a pretty spectacular goal on the weekend to open the scoring in that 3-0 win against Werder Bremen. They call it an Olympico, a goal scored directly from a corner, and she said of that goal that she scored a few of them in training. It is something they've been working on, packing out the near post with her whipping it in. But she said she'd never scored one in a competitive fixture until last weekend. That goal coming in injury time of the first half. Bayern then had to be patient in putting the game to bed as well. Damjanovic and Dahlmann getting goals in the final 5 minutes of play to make it a 3-0 win that maybe on the score sheet looks a little more comfortable than it was in reality. Well dealt with there by Maximiliana Rahl. Rahl making her first start tonight for Bayern. Danway scrapping away in midfield. Tainara will keep the ball in play. Brazilian has talked about wanting to win all possible titles with Bayern since joining from Bordeaux in the summer. At 23 years age, he is highly regarded, the Brazilian centre-back. Tonight's clash, as well, it's worth noting, is the final ticket to the Women's Champions League group stages. 4 teams that qualified automatically were the title holders Lyon, and then the league title winners in Germany, England and Spain, on account of Lyon already being in there. France are actually in the top 3 ranked associations. But as a result, Wolfsburg, Chelsea and Barcelona joined Lyon in automatically qualifying for the group stages. There were a host of games last night as Arsenal, Benfica, Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain. And I'll hold the thought because there's a chance brewing here for Bayern that ultimately comes to nothing. Strong challenge in midfield from Stanway, does well to win it back actually. And they've worked it out well to Dahlmann. What can she conjure up? Oh, goes it alone in the end, does Linda Dahlmann. Well, that 6-yard box was packed out with plenty of players, but they corner to the home side. There's a sea of blue and white shirts. Would have been difficult to pick out a teammate, and actually in the end almost caught Elena Leite out at her near post. Corners deep this time. It's a great delivery as well, and the chance was there for Maximiliana Rahl. Well, no stranger to scoring goals after signing from Hoffenheim last season. Her debut campaign produced 12 goals in 26 appearances. And in fairness, she will feel that she should have done better from a chance like that at the back post. A big fan of German pop singer Helene Fischer is Maximiliana Rahl. Her most famous song being Atemlos, or in English, Breathless. Miss too many chances like that, and it will leave you breathless at the end of a game like this. So far, though, it's fair to say that Bayern, as we approach the quarter-hour mark, have certainly had more control on proceedings than they did in the opening exchanges of the first leg in San Sebastian. Real Sociedad on that occasion buoyed by a record attendance crowd of just over 11,000. It was a record attendance for them as a club. It was also a record attendance for a Women's Champions League qualifier played out in the Reale Arena. And on that occasion, Bayern had 13 shots and 6 on target. Real Sociedad were held to just a single shot on target, which came very late on in the game. Now that players settled down as well, I can also finish rattling off the list of teams that have already made it into the group stages. Bayern and Real Sociedad looking to join them. I mentioned the 4 automatic qualifiers, the teams that booked their ticket last night were Arsenal, Benfica, Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Rosengård, Slavia Praha, St. Pölten, Vlasnia and Zurich. And then tonight, early tonight, there was a 4-1 win for Italian side Roma up against Sparta Praha, clinching what was a 6-2 aggregate victory for the Italian side. So now we simply await the final team to join them all in the group stages, introduced to the competition last season in place of the round of 16, and I think it's fair to say it was a resounding success for the Women's Champions League as well. Added a new dynamic to the competition. Players involved enjoyed the greater sense of competition in the group stages as well. Bayern in their Group D last season, finishing second behind the title winners, Olympique Lyon. Now a chance for Dahlmann. Little 1-2, lovely play from Bayern. Dahlmann to make it 1-0. And this time the opening goal arrives a little bit earlier for Bayern, but they have the breakthrough. The pressure had been building, and finally it tells. And after being thwarted on several occasions in the first leg in San Sebastian, Linda Dahlmann makes no mistake in getting her goal tonight. She said she had a very, very good feeling, and I'm sure that feeling will be justified. And she gives us the opening goal of the game. First to the loose ball, and it was a lovely 1-2. And then the composure to take an extra touch and work the angle. Her 32nd goal in her 94th appearance for Bayern, for Linda Dahlmann. And tonight, unlike in the first leg, Bayern making no mistakes when it comes to their chance conversion rate. One goal chalked off for offside. This time, the goal stands. Well, Dahlmann did call this one of the most important games of Bayern's season. He said the expectation has to be for them to qualify for the group stages. He also felt that her team were going to improve upon their first leg performance here tonight, and the early indications are that that is certainly the case. Constant instructions coming from the sideline from Alexander Strauss and his coaching staff. Lorman goes all the way back to Maria Luisa Gross, the young 21-year-old goalkeeper who has been called up to the German national team for the first time in her career. Ahead of their upcoming set of fixtures, and a strong challenge in midfield from Georgia Stanway. The ball was there to be won, but she very much took a lot of Gabby's legs out from underneath her. Gabby doing well there just to get her body across the ball and draw the challenge from Stanway, who knew she'd got a timing wrong there the minute she'd made the challenge. The goalkeeper for Bayern, Gross, one of 7 Bayern players to be called up to the latest Germany squad, along with Julia Gwynn, Clara Buhl, Linda Dahlmann, Sydney Lohmann, Lina Margul and Lea Schuller. Of course, Sarah Margul may have to wait to see whether she can recover in time from her COVID diagnosis. Lea Schuller does incredibly well there to hold up the ball under immense pressure from Tejada. Lea Schuller, the top goal scorer in the Frauen Bundesliga last season with 16 goals to her name, 21 in all competitions for Bayern. And she was named both the national team Female Footballer of the Year as well as Kickers Women's Footballer of the Year. Great recognition for performances that she produced last season, and while Bayern ultimately fell short in achieving their targets, Schuller played her part, and now Dahlmann looking to do the same, and it took a deflection, it must have. Lete is completely wrong-footed, and well, Linda Dahlmann may be credited with her second goal of the game. Two goals in the space of just under 5 minutes for Bayern. Potentially 2 goals for Linda Dahlmann. Oh, you never know. It may go down as a Specht own goal. It was a hefty deflection off the outstretched foot of Specht, and as a result, Lete left stranded on her own goal line. But this really is a marked improvement from Bayern compared to the first leg when they were profligate in front of goal. Tonight, more ruthless. And they're looking to make a statement of intent as they book their ticket to the Champions League group stages tonight. And now with a 3-goal aggregate advantage, you have to say that grip is getting ever tighter on that ticket for Bayern. Stanway in the 50-50 with Isagire, and comes away with it for Bayern as well. Isagire has barely been involved for Real Sociedad so far, the captain, and she's definitely one of the danger players for the visitors. Bayern so far doing well to cut out the service to her, as we see that Linda Dahlmann is credited with the goal. Bit of a generous decision there, I think, from the dubious goals committee. Lots of space out wide for Poljak, but Real Sociedad don't work it to this near side, instead going the other way with Bernabé. Bernabé gets it back, clips the ball into the dangerous area. The only player there is Vigorstadir. Clearance put all the way back, and now out for a goal kick. The second goal maybe just forcing the hand of Real Sociedad, as they maybe are seeing their Champions League hopes and dreams slip through their fingers after their second place finish in the top tier of Spanish women's football last season. The hope was they could push on and reach the Champions League group stages. It was head coach Natalia Arroyo who said it would take a perfect match to qualify against a tough opponent in Bayern. And so far, Real Sociedad have not been perfect. And Bayern have been near perfect, it has to be said. And pressing well so far, Sociedad have not had a shot on goal through 25 minutes. Meanwhile, Linda Dahlmann has a brace to her name. She said that she had a very, very good feeling about tonight. Not hard to understand why, now that she's already got 2 goals to her name. Less than 5 minutes between them as well for Linda Dahlmann. Teasing delivery, and Clara Boo was trying to get on the end of it. Again, it's another poor clearance from Real Sociedad. Georgia Stanway going up against Gabby. Bit of a physical mismatch, and Gabby certainly used her physical advantages to win the ball. Now here's Isagire. What can she create? Looking to go it alone. Does well to get past Dahlmann. Cheeky little reverse pass looking for Jensen. Just a little too much on it. And as a result, Julia Gwynn was able to snuff out the danger. Sociedad applying the press high, but well dealt with by Zadrazil there, and does well to draw the foul. Lovely play from Vigorstotir, who makes a bursting run and continues into the box. Leah Schuller, cheeky back heel. Clara Buhl, great composure shown, and in the end it comes to nothing. I have to give credit to Polyak there for still recovering the situation after committing to ground early. Clara Buhl did everything right there until producing the final pass, but this was lovely play from Bayern once again. And yes, they've had some teething problems, but we're starting to see them really find their rhythm under Alexander Strauss. There's a broken flag for the linesman. Getting replaced, a wry smile there, not something you see happen too often. Now, speaking of bizarre moments as well, if you head to fcbayern.com and head to the site of the women's team, you can have a look through some of the player profiles where they've asked the players a bunch of questions, probably when they first joined the club, that allow you to get to know them a little bit better. And the only reason I bring this up is because one of the questions asked on the club website was about one of the more bizarre moments, or one of the most bizarre moments these players have ever faced on the football pitch. And one in particular stood out. There was one where a bird apparently landed on a teammate, but it was Julia Gwynn with the throw in here who said that the weirdest moment in her football career was when there was a streaker that took to the pitch on her national team debut. A broken linesman's flag doesn't quite match up in the extremity there, but nevertheless, a bizarre moment. As the move for Real Sociedad comes to nothing, Gabby looking for the pass, but saw it blocked, but she's won it back here. Leah Schuller selling Vigorstotir a little short. Unfortunately for her, centre-back partner, Tainara, alert to the danger and across to cover. Again, Bayern looking for that confidence play out of the back. Lovely touch from Leah Schuller there. Well, Boo does give it away under pressure, but it's won back by Stanway, and now she can make a bursting run forward. Leading the charge is Georgia Stanway, threading the ball through to Leah Schuller. She's got Lohmann in support in the middle and looks to find her as well, but there was a touch on the cross. And the attack for Bayern peters out in the end. But again, that was free-flowing, attacking football. This time looking for the quick vertical. just saw a shot there of the supervisory board chairman at Bayern München, the president of the club, Herbert Heiner, the 68-year-old, in attendance to see whether the women's team can book their ticket to the Champions League group stages as another dangerous corner comes in. The delivery from Gwyn there, and exactly the same type of corner that Bayern scored from in that 3-0 win against Werder Bremen. The opening goal coming directly from a corner, thanks to Gwyn. But talking about Herbert Heiner, who we did just see on screen, there was a nice touch when Georgia Stanway was talking about some of the things that helped convince her to seek out a new challenge, and then some of the things that convinced her that Bayern were the right club. And it was a personal message from Herbert Heiner that gave her a sense of that really close-knit feel that Bayern always talk about, that family dynamic under the Mia San Mia motto. Lovely touch there from Tainara. Just wrong-footed Isagire, and now Gwyn under pressure from Francie. Nice one-touch passing, but passing goes astray in the end. Just under 2,000 fans in attendance at the Bayern campus for this Champions League qualifier second leg, trying to make their voices heard. Bayern with one win from one on home soil this season, coming against Werder Bremen last weekend. Last season they only lost 2 games at home in the entire campaign. One coming against Wolfsburg in the Frauen Bundesliga, the other against Paris Saint-Germain in the Women's Champions League quarter-finals. Lovely, neat little turn out wide and a dangerous delivery from Jensen. Just couldn't pick out Francie in the middle. Maria Luisa Gross happy to collect that one. Gross actually had a trial with Bayern at the age of 14, but chose not to join the club on that occasion, instead opting to finish her schooling back at home. Nevertheless, the connection between player and club was never really lost, and as a result, she joined back in 2021. We're looking for the switch of play, but the idea telegraphed, and now Francie can come away with it. Find support with Gabby. And Real Sociedad have just had to slow their roll now, and it's allowed Bayern to get plenty of players behind the ball again. I think it's fair to say that Bayern have taken their foot off the pedal a little bit after adding a second goal early in this first half. They're not quite forcing the issue as much, and they are allowing Real Sociedad to dictate a little bit more of the tempo. They begin to advance their lines a little further forward in the hopes of maybe producing a riposte here. Maria Luisa Gross, 21 years old, still a little bit unproven. But so far this season, She's played in 4 games. She's kept 4 clean sheets, is yet to concede. And given the fact that we've rarely seen her in action tonight or troubled at all, good chance that record can be stretched to a 5th straight game with a clean sheet. And as a goalkeeper, that always will sit well. She did have to make some very big saves in that 0-0 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt as Bayern kicked off their campaign in the Frauen Bundesliga with a goalless draw. Bit of a setback, but there was a record-setting crowd of just over 22,000 fans inside the Waldstadion, and now a chance for a third. Linda Dahlmann, she's on for a hat-trick, forced wide, still gets the shot off, still forces a save. And Linda Dahlmann tonight looking very lively. Wonderfully timed run as well. A nice little cutback pass from Sydney Lohmann. Great vision from the midfielder there. Stanway. Lovely delivery. Just floating it in there. Working their way down the right channels. At present, Bayern, well, Stanway, the idea was a 1-2, but Stanway wasn't quite offering that option. Kvin batting out against Francie and loses out in the end, and Real Sociedad trying to make something of it, but Georgia Stanway, she snuffs out the danger there quickly. Spotted it, reacted. And as a result, Real Sociedad there stopped in their tracks. Here's Poyak. She enters side a corner here with just over 5 minutes remaining in this first half. Given the fact that we've seen very little from Real Sociedad in terms of an attacking threat, maybe the way forward for Natalia Arroyo's side is to chip away at set pieces. Isaguirre offering the short option. The drill delivery headed clear at the front post. Sociedad wanted to go back to Isaguirre there, but the avenue didn't present itself, and almost inviting a counter-attack there from Bayern as well. And we saw a couple of loose touches and a couple of loose passes in the opening few minutes from Bayern, but you have to say since then, the individual errors that Alexander Strauss was talking about before tonight's game have certainly been ironed out. Bayern looking both sharp on the ball and off the ball in terms of their shape and organisation off the ball, but also the way they're working the channels and combining on the ball. fair to say the hosts are fully deserving of this 2-0 lead, courtesy of the brace from Linda Dahlmann. She only scored 9 goals in all competitions last season. Linda Dahlmann already has 4 to her name. The 2 tonight adding to the goal she scored in the 7-0 win against Ingolstadt, the second-tier side in the DFB Pokal. Not to mention the goal that rounded out a 3-0 win for Bayern against Bremen last weekend. Linda Dahlmann, who says if she wasn't a footballer, that she would definitely have a job in football. Fortunately for her, her talent enough to take her to the pinnacle of women's football. 52 appearances for the German national team as well to her name, Linda Dahlmann. One of the 7 Bayern players to be called up to the national team for the latest squad. Got a game against France coming up, which is a rematch of the semi-finals at the European Championships. That takes place on the 7th of October in Dresden, and already 24,000 tickets have been sold for that game. Perhaps proof that the hype from the European Championships and Germany's success there certainly hasn't died out in Germany. Bayern with a European champion in their ranks as well in the form of Georgia Stanway. That's a lovely touch from Lohmann. Trying to pick out Schuller. Oh, to tap in. Brilliant, brilliant play from Bayern. And Lea Schuller makes it 3 as she marks a milestone moment in her Bayern career. 50 goals in 68 appearances now for the 24-year-old. Her aim is 1 goal for every game played. She's on the score sheet tonight as she was in the first leg, and Bayern now taking a commanding lead in at the break of this second leg. You just see there, bottom of your screen, Schuller staying in the blind spot, but it really was that touch from Sydney Lohmann, the 22-year-old. Sold the dummy. Left her marker trailing in her wake, and then the presence of mind to pick out Lea Schuller at the back post. Well, scoring goals is what Lea Schuller is all about, and he proved that in the Women's Champions League last season already. 2 goals in as many games in the qualifiers this season. Group stage opponents, be warned. Lea Schuller and her goal-scoring form as hot as ever. Oh, this is a nice chance though for Sociedad. They have got one back before half-time. Their first shot of the game, their first shot on target, definitely of the game, and it's converted by Jensen. And for the first time this season, Maria Luisa Gross has conceded in the Bayern goal. They doubled up there at the back. Tainara and Vigosdottir both trying to come across to cut it out. As a result, they left themselves a little exposed. Dahlmann was looking to expose Sociedad there, but the offside flag goes up against it. Well, late change to the first half script there, thanks to Real Sociedad and Sinne Jensen. She was full of running in the first leg, but regularly isolated and didn't have quite the service she needed to deal damage to this Bayern side. But tonight she's got her goal. Still very willing to make her presence felt in amongst that back line. But what that will serve to do is warn Bayern that this game and this time may not be over just yet. Real Sociedad will certainly need an almighty turnaround in the second half after what was a dominant performance from Bayern in this first. 2 goals from Linda Dahlmann got the ball rolling. 2 goals in quick succession as well before Lea Schuller added one just before half-time. And just when it looked like Bayern were going to take a 3-0 lead or a 4-0 aggregate lead in at the break, there was a late twist in the tail thanks to Sinne Jensen as she pulls the goal back. Something for Alexander Strauss to work with when it comes to his half-time team talk, but plenty of positives for him to focus on despite that mini setback. And I'm sure the message will be one of positivity coming into the second half, because as things stand, it's 3-1 to Bayern at the break, and they're on course to book their ticket to the Women's Champions League group stages. Join us again for the second half shortly.
Es war der erste wichtige Schritt in Richtung Königsklasse. Mit 1:0 konnten sich die Frauen des FC Bayern gegen Real Sociedad durchsetzen, aber von vorne. Nur 4 Tage nach dem Ligaauftakt gegen Eintracht Frankfurt stand für die Münchnerinnen das Hinspiel der Qualifikation für die UEFA Women's Champions League auf dem Programm. Trainer Alexander Strauss wechselte die Startelf auf lediglich 2 Positionen. Für Sarah Satrasil und Lina Magul begannen Sydney Lohmann und Linda Dahlmann. Die erste Chance der Partie gab es dann in der 9. Minute. Caro Simon mit dem Freistoß, aber der geht knapp über den Kasten von Elena Lette. Ein erstes Ausrufezeichen der Bayern-Frauen, die in der Folge immer gefährlicher wurden. Die 35. Minute. Wieder Dahlmann auf Stanway und Lea Schüller rutscht da ganz knapp an der Kugel vorbei. Die Führung für die Münchnerinnen, sie wäre zu diesem Zeitpunkt bereits hoch verdient gewesen. Kurz darauf dann aber auch die Gäste mit einer guten Gelegenheit. Im Strafraum wartet Gabriela Garcia, aber auch sie bringt den Ball nicht aufs Tor. Und so heißt es weiter 0:0 vor rund 11.500 Zuschauern in der Reale Arena. Es läuft bereits die letzte Minute der ersten Halbzeit. Clara Bühl sieht Lea Schüller, steckt den Ball durch und diesmal ist er drin. Schüller mit dem 1:0 für die Bayern in der 45. Minute. Die Führung gegen den aktuellen Zweitplatzierten der Primera División. Und mit 1:0 geht es dann auch in die Pause. Im zweiten Durchgang machen die Bayern genauso weiter, wie sie im ersten aufgehört hatten. Lea Schüller mit dem Lupfer über Lette, aber Julia Gwynn kommt nicht mehr an den Ball und verpasst die Chance aufs 2:0. Nur 5 Minuten später aber schon die nächste gute Gelegenheit für die Gäste. Clara Bühl kann sich durchsetzen und Bühl zieht einfach mal ab. Erst im Nachfassen ist der Schuss entschärft. Die Bayern-Frauen jetzt richtig gut im Spiel und es geht Schlag auf Schlag weiter. Die 58. Minute und Caro Simon mit einem Traumpass in den Lauf von Linda Dahlmann. Die bringt die Kugel in den Strafraum auf Schüller und im allerletzten Moment kratzt Lette den Ball da noch irgendwie von der Linie. Es war einfach wie verhext. Gegen Ende der Partie dann die Gastgeberinnen ein wenig besser im Spiel und mit der richtig dicken Chance zum Ausgleich. Aber Mala Groß ist da und kann den Schuss von Nerea Essaguirre noch an die Latte lenken. Eine Glanztat der 21-Jährigen im Tor der Bayern-Frauen, die damit den 1:0-Erfolg in San Sebastian festhält. Die Münchnerinnen gewinnen also das Hinspiel um den Einzug in die Königsklasse. Am Sonntag empfängt das Team von Trainer Alexander Strauss den SV Werder Bremen zum ersten Liga-Heimspiel der Saison, bevor am 29. September Real Sociedad zum entscheidenden Rückspiel am Campus zu Gast ist.
Ich fand, es war schwierig. Es war die ganze Atmosphäre gegen uns, es war super laut und der Gegner hat echt gut Druck gemacht. Es ist richtig gut, dass wir hier zu 0 gespielt haben, dass wir unser 1-0 über die Zeit gebracht haben am Ende. Ich fand, wir hatten in der zweiten Halbzeit auch eine richtig, richtig gute Phase. Und ich glaube, zu Hause, wenn wir das wieder machen, dann werden wir auch höher gewinnen.
Ich glaube, mit dem 1-0 können wir jetzt wirklich zufrieden sein. Real Sociedad hatte noch viele Chancen zum Ende hin, wir auch. Aber ja, damit möchte ich nur sagen, dass es auch hätte unentschieden ausgehen können, weil wir unsere Chancen eben auch nicht genutzt haben, weil wir teilweise schon noch sehr hektisch gespielt haben. Aber ja, wie du gesagt hast, also das 1-0 war auf jeden Fall wichtig und kam auch zum richtigen Zeitpunkt.
Wir sind glücklich über das Ergebnis, aber nicht über die Performance. Wir haben viele Chancen kreiert und müssen letztendlich mehr Tore erzielen.
Ich glaube, wir müssen einfach unsere Chancen besser nutzen. Wir hatten echt eine Menge dann auch und wenn wir da noch 2 nachlegen oder so, dann sieht das hier ganz anders aus.
Wir haben hohe Erwartungen an uns und das ist der Grund, warum wir heute nicht hundertprozentig zufrieden sind mit der Performance.
Hammer und cool es wäre, eine Bärin zu haben.
Was für eine bärenstarke Überraschung.
Die FC Bayern Frauen zu Hause am heimischen Campus im fashion-neuen Wiesentrikot. Das erste Heimspiel ausverkauft. 2500 Zuschauer erleben nach einer guten Viertelstunde diesen Angriff über Lina Magul auf Georgia Stanway. 20 Meter, strammer Schuss und gerade noch so Anneke Borbe im Kasten von Werder. Magul statt Lohmann in der Startelf, ansonsten identisch wie zuletzt beim 1:0-Sieg bei Real Sociedad. Dann Ecke Julia Quinn, gefährlich und drin das Ding. Das 1:0 für die FC Bayern Frauen in der Nachspielzeit der ersten Hälfte. Ein kurioser Treffer, bei dem Bremens Torhüterin Borbe die Sicht versperrt ist. Und das erste Saisontor für die 23 Jahre alte Julia Quinn. Wichtiger Zeitpunkt für den Führungstreffer, so unmittelbar vor dem Halbzeitpfiff. Im zweiten Durchgang werden die FC Bayern Frauen deutlicher, vor allem mit Standards. Einwurf und Georgia Stanway mit freier Schussbahn gefährlich abgezogen von der englischen Europameisterin, 49. Spielminute. Weiter in die 66. Minute. Strauß hatte Lohmann und Damjanovic für Kumagai und Schüller gebracht. Die Bayern-Frauen erhöhten den Druck. Lina Magul mit der nächsten Gelegenheit. Borbe rettet mit dem Fuß. Rein in die Schlussphase und zur Linda Dahlmann-Show. Starker Antritt, Übersteiger und mustergültig auf Jovana Damjanovic. Das 2:0. Das erste Bundesligator für die serbische Stürmerin seit Mitte Mai. Und da sieht man auch die Befreiung und die Energie, die die 27-Jährige da rauslässt. Ist ja auch immer wieder von Verletzungen geplagt und zurückgeworfen worden. Tolles Tor, aber mindestens genauso wertvoll die Vorbereitung durch Linda Dahlmann, die Abwehrspielerin Nemeth austanzt und damit Platz hat und Damjanovic bedienen kann. Doch immer noch nicht Schluss am Campus und die Bayern-Frauen noch nicht satt. Ballgewinn, Linda Dahlmann. Und das ist einfach unwiderstehlich. Linda Dahlmann zum 3:0. Ein Traumtor genau ins linke Eck. Starke Einzelaktion von Linda Dahlmann und da gab es gar nichts zu halten für Anneke Borbe. Das Ganze in der 90. Spielminute. Eine kleine Körperfinte von Dahlmann und dann ist der Weg frei. Da passt einfach alles. Die FC Bayern Frauen holen den ersten Dreier in der Liga und feiern eine perfekte Generalprobe für das anstehende Champions League Quali Rückspiel gegen Real Sociedad am Donnerstag. Die Bayern Frauen sind in Wiesen und in Winnerstimmung.
Hallo, ich bin Marla Groß und 21 Jahre alt. Wir waren im Trainingslager, da waren auch dann das erste Mal alle mit dabei. Das war auch richtig schön, gerade weil wir auch eine lange Zeit lang nur mit gefühlt 8 bis 10 Leuten hier waren. Mussten wir uns da sehr schnell finden. Ich glaube, das dauert auch immer noch ein bisschen an. Sprachlich ist es auch noch mal ein bisschen komplizierter geworden. Aber auch das ja, meistern wir, entweder mit Zeichen oder mit Google oder was auch immer. Wir finden da schon einen Weg. Und ja, genau, ist auf jeden Fall ein super Team. Kurzfristig vor allem meinen aktuellen Stand zu halten. Also ich hatte ja durchaus auch mit Verletzungen zu kämpfen, Krankheiten, und ich versuche sehr aufmerksam mit meinem Körper umzugehen, dass ich fitnessmäßig auf dem gleichen Level bleibe und dann eben auch meine Leistung abrufen kann. Ich möchte es einfach gut machen und ja, die Trainer vor schwere Entscheidungen stellen. Ja, mittelfristig schaue ich jetzt vor allem erstmal auf die Hinrunde, dass wir die Champions League klar machen, dass wir dort gute Spiele abliefern und dass dann ja, zum Rückrundenstart auf jeden Fall wir in einer super Position sind, um die ganzen Titel mitzuspielen. Bedeutet mir schon viel. Also es war ja auch mein erster großer Verein. Also ich bin von der Jungsmannschaft direkt hierher gekommen und am Anfang habe ich gedacht, oh Gott, das ist ein Riesenverein und das sind so viele Leute. Und dann war ich hier und ich habe mich irgendwie trotzdem gleich aufgenommen gefühlt, schon beim ersten Besuch. Und deswegen ist es auch der FC Bayern geworden und das ist ein tolles Gefühl und ich genieße die Möglichkeiten, die ich hier habe, sehr.
Hello and welcome back, one and all, to the Bayern Campus. Tonight playing host to a decisive Champions League group stage qualifier. And as things stand, it is Bayern München who look to be booking their ticket to the Women's Champions League group stages. After bringing a narrow advantage back to Munich with them from San Sebastian. They have made that lead look a little bit more comfortable tonight on home soil against Real Sociedad. Lea Schuller's goal was the only goal that separated the sides coming into tonight. However, Bayern storming out to a 3-0 lead in the first half here, thanks to a brace from Linda Dahlmann. And a goal, a milestone goal for Lea Schuller, as she got her 50th in Bayern colours. They looked to be taking a commanding lead in at the break, but there was a late twist in the tail of the first half as Sinne Jensen pulled a goal back for Real Sociedad. It means that they do still have a slim outside chance of causing what would now be an almighty upset against the side that finishes German runners-up in the Frauen Bundesliga last season. Well, it is the home side who get us underway as they look to, at the very least, maintain that 3-goal aggregate advantage, if not extend it here tonight, because they have looked sharp. They have looked hungry for goals as well. And after the big criticism that was levelled at them after the first leg in terms of their lack of chance conversion, well, tonight they are setting the record straight, Bayern, and we see the first shot of the second half go the way of the home side. Sidley Norman, who had a fantastic first half as well. 2 assists to her name. It was a lovely, lovely touch in the build-up to Lea Schuller's goal, and really, Norman deserves more credit than Schuller, who just applied the finishing touches with a tap-in. Nevertheless, it is Schuller celebrating her 50th goal since joining Bayern back in 2020. Easing delivery in, and, well, Schuller was ready to pounce. Lete plucking that one out of the air, though. Confirmation of the halftime changes as well for Real Sociedad. 2 like-for-like changes in midfield as Gemma Hilly and Iris Hill come off to be replaced by Manuela Venegas and Andrea Jacinto. Here is Jacinto, half-time substitute, combining with the other. Venegas now out the opposite flank. It's a good delivery in, and again they're looking for the run of Francie. And there was a big shout of hey from the sidelines there. I reckon that was Alexander Strauss calling for his side to be a little bit more alert there. Maximiliana Rahl had to act, and I tell you what, that could have gone anywhere, that header. Fortunately for Bayern, behind for a corner. And now they'll have a set piece to defend. But having let Real Sociedad get a goal back at the end of that first half, the last thing they'll want to do is open the door and invite the Spaniards to push forward in hopes of turning this game around. As we see Lea Schuller there, her header ends up flashing across the face of her own goal. Some nervous moments here at the start of the second half for Bayern, which you would expect given the fact they're 3-1 up tonight and 4-1 up on aggregate. But this is the pinnacle of women's football in Europe, the Women's Champions League. Again, it's not a convincing clearance from Bayern, and it will be a throw into the visitors once again. Looking to launch it long into the box. Gabby with her head to the ball. And it will be another corner for Real Sociedad. And it was head coach Natalia Arroyo who said after the first leg, it gave us confidence that we came so close to taking a draw away with us. Tonight, it seemed to need them going 3-0 down to unleash the shackles, but now Francie on the turn again, seeing her shot blocked, and Gross does well to prevent it going out for a corner. Gross, who talking with the German Football Association website this week, talking about her first call-up to the national team, says it means a lot. You see there Natalia Arroyo issuing instructions from the side. Said she felt her team had the weapons to cause Bayern problems. I think they've shown over the course of 2 legs that they do have those weapons. Tonight, they've made them count as well with a goal pulled back by Jensen. But she also said that her team needed a perfect match to stand a chance of coming away with the right result against tough rivals like Bayern. And I think it's fair to say this has not been perfect, but now a chance. Isagire snapping up the loose ball, and a loose touch, though, just allowed Stanway to quell the threat that was brewing. So far, 5 minutes into this second half, and the pressure is building in favour of the visitors, and Bayern do need to be wary of allowing too much pressure to build, as Stanway now comes away with it and can clear the lines. And they've certainly been warned here that two-time Champions League semi-finalist Bayern. This their 9th participation in Europe's premier club competition. They featured in the semi-finals in 2018, in the 2018-19 campaign, as well as the 2020-21 campaign, losing out to Barcelona and Chelsea, respectively, in those seasons. On top of those 2 semi-finals, they've also had 3 quarter-final appearances, including last season, when they suffered a 4-3 aggregate loss after extra time against Paris Saint-Germain. That second leg as well was so tough for Bayern because their squad's so hard hit by a COVID outbreak. As a result, they were only able to name 4 substitutes in that game. But now looking for a 4th here was Clara Buhl. Zadrazil, one of the 2 changes in the starting lineup tonight, captaining the side in the absence of Lena Margol, and that was worked well. Julia Gavin with the shot. Zadrazil now snapping away at the heels of Venegas. Well, Alexander Strauss said he felt his side could have scored more goals in the first leg, felt his team could have decided the tie had they had a better conversion rate. And he said before the game that he felt it was still wide open, even if they do have an advantage. I think it's fair to say things are a little more close off right now, but if Real Sociedad could get another goal in the next 10 minutes, then it could make things very interesting, it has to be said. For now, Stanway combining with Dahlmann. Stanway gets it back. Rahl on the overlap. Stanway looks for the cross. All the pace taken off of it by the block from Bernabé. Not the first time tonight that Georgia Stanway has been brought to ground by this Sociedad midfield, who are certainly paying her close attention, and understandably so. Georgia Stanway, who, talking in interview, mentioned the fact that there are a few things that she's had to get used to since moving to Germany. And I'll hold the thought there, because that's a lovely touch from Rahl. Oh, how did she manage to bring that under her spell? So unfortunate not to pick out a teammate there, because she did all the hard work. He just needed someone making that gamble in the 6-yard box to provide the finishing touches. Normally, it would be Leah Schuller. She was nowhere to be seen. Even she hadn't necessarily read the opportunity that was coming. But now another here. Schuller laying it off for Stanway. Does well to ride the challenge, does Georgia Stanway. Twisting, turning, draws the foul. And this is a free kick in a promising position now for Bayern. They're trying to take it quickly, though, but they're not going to be allowed to by Tess Olofsson, the Swedish referee tonight. But talking about the things that Stanway said that she had to get used to, it was the perplexing issue of the fact that when you rent an apartment in Germany, it doesn't necessarily come with a kitchen. The kitchen ultimately sold or rented separately in Germany, and as a result, she ended up having to buy a kitchen, and that took a couple of weeks to arrive as well. One off the training ground here for Bayern. The chance is there. Oh, there was a host of red shirts ready to pounce, but if anything, the ball went the wrong way in the end, and now Sociedad are sending it the other way. Nice pass from Jensen. Isagire gives it back. It's a nice 1-2, and Jensen, the goal scorer at the end of the first half, trying to push Real Sociedad forward, but the attack for now peters out. Arroyo didn't feel like there's enough for a foul there on the sidelines in favour of Sydney Lawman. Lawman tonight making a 94th appearance in all competitions for Bayern. Schuller had very little in terms of support, but does well to win the corner. Another dangerous delivery from the corner for Bayern. Unfortunately for the home side, it comes to nothing. Last season for Bayern ultimately defined by 3 losses to their main rivals in German football, Wolfsburg. 2 losses in the Frauen Bundesliga, 1 in the DFB Pokal. Coming in the semi-finals of that competition as Wolfsburg went on to do the double. It was Julia Gwynn talking at the end of the season saying that Bayern wanted the title win, but ultimately they didn't have enough. That they have proved that they can win it 2 years ago, and they just need to go back to the drawing board with their new head coach, Alexander Strauss. And that really was the big change in the summer. A new philosophy, a new head coach, a new style of play. As Bayern look to address some of the issues that have crept in recent years. The 2 head coaches, Thomas Wöhler and Jens Scheuer, who both produced the 3 Frauen Bundesliga title wins that Bayern have to their name. Both were really accused of lacking a plan B. And under Jens Scheuer in particular, the last couple of seasons, there was a call for more structure to Bayern's game. Here we see Francie. I think Dahlmann there did just enough to avoid committing the foul inside the area. But I think tonight, if we're talking about head coaches and the impact, if Thomas Wöhler didn't have a plan B and Jens Scheuer didn't have enough of a clear structure, I think, it's fair to say that Bayern have a very clear structure under Alexander Strauss, and now we're starting to see them really find their rhythm and their groove within his approach to the game. He says he wants dominant play. He wants his team to control the tempo and ultimately operate with bravery. He said it's a philosophy based on trusting the qualities of his players. Strauss, who joined from Norwegian champion Sandviken Brann in the summer after producing 17 wins from a possible 18 over the course of that domestic campaign. But it seems tonight, having really tried to insist on playing his 3-4-3 formation, one that served him so well in Norway last season, that ultimately a switch to a backline of 4 tonight suggests that maybe he's already showing that he has a plan B in his locker. 3-4-3 formation certainly had a few teething issues along the way, but now Bayern going from strength to strength, and that's a nice little combination play. Unfortunately, it doesn't come off for Zadrazil as she loses out. Lea Schuller once again providing that first line of defense as we cross the hour mark here at the Bayern campus. 4 goals so far between these two sides, none so far in the second half. Certainly more evenly matched. I don't think Bayern operating with quite the same impetus that they were in the first half, because ultimately the priority right now is to defend this 3-1 lead, and they do seem to have ridden out the almost power play phase of Real Sociedad at the start of the second half, where they really pushed for a second goal and it wasn't forthcoming. Stanway wins out against Jensen. Jensen not happy the decision wasn't given in her favour. She thought there was a foul in the mix there from Stanway, but Bayern have come forward here. That's a lovely turn again from Sydney Lohmann. Not the first time tonight. Lohmann trying to create. Schuller now on the ball. Looking for Lohmann, and well, it was a bit of a 50-50, and I think the goalkeeper, Leite, did in the end get just enough on the ball. And she came to collect. I tell you, that connection, that link-up play between Sydney Lohmann and Lea Schuller tonight really coming to the forefront. Those two very much on the same wavelength, the Germany international teammates. Lohmann tried to give it to Schuller. It didn't quite come off, and then Schuller tried to return the favour, and it didn't quite come off, but the intent is there. Here is Linda Dahlmann with space to work with, the 2-goal scorer from the first half, and I'm sure wouldn't say no to the opportunity to complete her hat-trick here tonight. Now we can see some changes being readied by Alexander Strauss. The games are coming thick and fast for Bayern at the start of this season. These 2 extra fixtures in the Champions League qualifiers, just adding a little bit more congestion to the fixture list. Certainly still manageable for Strauss and his charges. We are going to see Jovana Damjanovic introduced to the fray. And it's Lea Schuller who comes off. Job done tonight for the 24-year-old, marking that milestone moment with her 50th goal for Bayern since joining from Essen in 2020. She talked about the fact that she wants to aim for a goal every game she plays. So far this season, that's 3 goals in 5 appearances, so not quite hitting her mark, but in the Champions League, 2 goals in 2 against Real Sociedad. And here is Damjanovic. First few touches of the ball for the number 9, who recently signed a contract extension, keeping her at the club long term and linking up well now with Buhl. Nice cross in, and well, it was an open header at the back post for Sydney Lohmann, but she was going to have to generate quite a fair bit of power from that type of position, and it wasn't enough power in the end to really trouble Leite. Lohmann, though, 22 years of age, approaching almost 100 appearances for Bayern. And Lohmann has talked about the fact that one of her biggest aims in her footballing career would be to try and sell out the Allianz Arena at some point, and that really would be quite something for this Bayern side. They did open the Allianz Arena doors last season when Paris Saint-Germain came to visit. And there is talk that that might happen on a few more occasions in the current campaign if the occasion warrants it. We do have a game coming up in the Frauen Bundesliga on match day 5 against title holders Wolfsburg that will be played in the men's arena up north in the Autostadt, or the car city as it's known. Volkswagen Arena will play host to that match. And you have to think as well, if we saw the record set in the Frauen Bundesliga on match day 1 in that goalless draw between Frankfurt and Bayern at the Waldstadion, there's a very, very good chance that we might see a new record set when Wolfsburg play host to Bayern at the Volkswagen Arena in a couple of weeks' time. First up, though, for Bayern before that match, they've got an away game against MSV Duisburg coming up on the weekend. Duisburg, incidentally, their round of 16 opponents in the DFB Pokal after that draw was made earlier this week. That tie still yet to be set in stone, but it will take place on either the 19th or 20th of November. So Bayern will get a first-hand scouting report of their cup opponents next weekend before they then welcome Köln to the Bayern campus on match day 4. And after what was a pretty intense start to this second half with Real Sociedad pushing for a second, the tempo has been taken out of the game for the most part by Bayern. Real Sociedad trying to inject it on occasion. You have to say, the second half, they've taken it down another notch, Bayern. But when they do speed it up, when they do inject pace into the game, as we've seen already tonight, that really is where they can do the most damage to Real Sociedad, who at times look just a yard off the pace compared to their hosts. And now, lovely combination play from Dalman and Damjanovic. And of course, commentators curse the minute you praise something like that. A pass goes astray, but now Stanway comes away with it. Overran it a little bit, and now looks like she's picked up a bit of a knock. But now the play goes on, though, for Bayern. A chance brewing to make it 4. I don't think Clara Bull quite got her head up where she needed to there to see where Linda Dahlmann was ready to pounce. So when your side are 2 goals down on the night and 3 goals down on aggregate, it doesn't hurt when you can bring on your top goal scorer from last season. Real Sociedad see Amer Sariegi enter the fray. 17 goals last season. Just keeping a close eye on Georgia Stanway as well after she picked up what looked to be a knock in the middle of the park just a few moments ago. There was a shout from the sidelines from Alexander Strauss asking whether she was okay. I didn't hear a response. Nevertheless, no signs of any real impairment for Georgia Stanway as we approach the final 20 minutes here at the Bayern campus. Of course, the Oktoberfest is going on right now in Munich. First time in 2 years that the Wiesn is taking place. Bayern tonight, though, not playing in their Wiesen kit, which they put out on display against Werder Bremen. Lovely kit as well, it is, as has to be said. Nice shade of maroon, if that's your thing. With a golden trim. It's not the liveliest chant coming from the crowd, is it? You have to say. Nevertheless, they've certainly had their fair share to cheer about tonight, and there may still be more as Georgia Stanway. No signs of carrying that knock anymore. Rahl had continued her run. Dahlmann tried to dance her way into the box and just lost the footing at the vital moment. Strong challenge from Stanway, but wow, that was a clean challenge as well. Won the ball. What she was saying as well, but no real remonstrations. Well, Alexander Strauss, the Bayern head coach, talking after that 3-0 win against Werder Bremen, said it was the type of performance his side can build on. And I think if we take the snapshot of this game, the case study from the first half in particular really is a strong indicator that Bayern are really starting to find their groove under their new head coach. They're starting to understand the demands being asked of them. But they're also finding synergy in the new system. As we see Francie here trying to turn and shoot, but all avenues blocked off. Here's Francie again. That was a nice touch just to avoid the challenge of Sydney Lohmann. Francie gets it back, but she's forced out wide. Nice build-up play from Real Sociedad. The final pass, though, not quite matching it in the end. We're going to see Emmeline Laurent, the young 23-year-old French international, coming on. A summer signing from Olympique Lyon. One of Bayern's Champions League opponents in the group stages last season. And of course, the side that went on to win the Champions League with Laurent in their side. Nevertheless, she wanted to join Bayern to reach her full potential, in her own words. Says that she will always be ready to give 100% for the cause. And she comes on now for the final 17 minutes and change. Oh, the ball was on, and Laurent, it is still on. The fresh legs of Laurent, and look at the pace from Laurent to make it 4. Oh, brilliant save from Leite. But Emmeline Laurent there, with the turn of pace that will strike fear into the heart of some of the tired legs in the Real Sociedad ranks. You have to give credit as well. It's a good save from Leite. Made herself big, stuck out of foot. The intention from Laurent was clear. She wanted to open her body and find that far corner. But still, she waits for her first goal in Bayern colours. Dahlmann. Potential 1-2 with Lohmann. Lohmann having to get a bit improvisational there in terms of retaining possession for Bayern, but does well, the number 12. Real talent is Sydney Lohmann. That's well done by Damjanovic, and well, a clip of the heels inside the area. The penalty protests were relatively muted as now Quinn strikes. Julia Quinn named in the team of the tournament, the European Championships in the summer. As her earliest memory of Bayern was turning up at the Allianz Arena in a full kit, aged 8. Kvin, who joined from Freiburg back in 2019, following Jens Scheuer that summer in joining the Bavarian side. Damjanovic. Physical battle there between Damjanovic and Venegas. Damjanovic, who after signing that contract extension I mentioned a few moments ago, said she was 200% happy at Bayern and said she can't imagine playing anywhere else. That goal against Werder Bremen to make it 2-0, her first of the season, her 40th all-time for Bayern. First yellow card of the game goes to Sinne Jansen, the goal scorer for Real Sociedad, for the challenge on Zadrazil, making her comeback after a spell on the sidelines following a positive COVID test. Zadrazil, 29-year-old, taking the captain's armband and immediately putting in a solid performance in midfield tonight. He has been a protector of that back line, but the creative attacking inflections that she's brought to that midfield have certainly served Bayern well, but she certainly left Georgia Stanway and Sydney Lawman to really command the attacking attempts. A nice little reverse pass to find Francie. Bearing down on goal is Francie, trying to pick out a teammate. Another chance still alive here for Real Sociedad. And in the end, neither Sariegi or Marcos were able to really make the most of it. I think it was Specht that went into the book there, so 2 yellow cards now in quick succession for Real Sociedad. Wait for confirmation. It was indeed Specht trying to go through the back of Damjanovic. There we see a look at the Sociedad captain, Isagire, who really has been much quieter tonight compared to that first leg. Good challenge by Laurent. Raul tries to follow suit and wins the throw. Well, but for a very positive spell in the beginning of the second half from Real Sociedad, I think Alexander Strauss will be pleased with the manner in which his side have controlled the narrative here at the Bayern campus. Rarely have we seen them troubled in this second half. At the same time, they haven't had as much onus on their own attacking movements. The opportunity presented itself, they would have explored it, but they haven't really forced the issue going forward, Bayern. Nevertheless, you say that, and Emmeline Laurent and her pace may do that in this second half, but a passing there letting her down. This another extended spell of possession for Real Sociedad. And I only mention that as somewhat strange, given the fact that last season in the Women's Champions League, Bayern were one of only 5 sides to limit their opponents to 10 passes per possession or less. It was one of the reasons, I'm sure, that Alexander Strauss came in during the summer and said he didn't want to change too much. He said he felt like the foundation had been built by Jens Scheuer. He just wanted to change things tactically a little bit. And while the experiments with the 3-4-3 formation didn't quite come off maybe the way he would have hoped, this switch to a 4 back line is producing the type of performance as they did against Werder Bremen that they really can continue to build on here, Bayern. Sarriegi sees her shot blocked. Now with Damjanovic. One-on-one with Specht. Laurent thought about providing support. He is there for the reverse pass. Damjanovic instead trying to pick out Stanway, and it's well read by Isagire. That's a nice pass out wide to Sarriegi. Bayern's backline a little bit stretched here if Sociedad can capitalise. Sarriegi taken down, but play will go on. Advantage played. Francie will keep the ball in play for the visitors. Only two teammates to aim for in the middle. Chinto losing out in the end. That should be a throw for Real Sociedad, and indeed it is. They're on with the final touch there. Press from Bayern certainly not as high, willing to drop deep and absorb pressure. You can almost see them operating with a back five at times as well now. There's Laurent dropping in from that wide position. Cross comes in for Real Sociedad, and Bayern again having to be alert to the danger being posed. Julia Gvin will look to try and complete the clearance here and does so well, just to alleviate a bit of the pressure. Similarities to what happened in the first leg in terms of Bayern allowing Real Sociedad back into the game. Of course, this now in very different circumstances, given the fact that we've got just under 8 minutes remaining and they have a 4-1 aggregate lead. So the threat and nervousness of Real Sociedad sneaking something from this game really. The only threat is that they might get a consolation effort, but in terms of denying Bayern their place in the Champions League group stages, I don't think that's going to happen tonight. And you have to say, over the course of the two legs, Bayern have shown the greater quality, they've shown the greater poise. They ultimately, if you are comparing the two, have looked more like a Champions League side than Real Sociedad. But Sociedad still learning at the highest level, have nothing to be ashamed of because they've given a very good account of themselves against a team with European history on their side. One more change for the Spaniards tonight as they throw in another attacking option. Ainara shields the ball, Gross gobbles it up. Damjanovic has done well there, and Laurent has a lot of space to work with here. Trying to pick out a teammate and only had one option available in the form of Linda Dahlmann. Fine, settling for the corner here. Emeline Laurent, who joined from Olympique Lyon. Family have roots in Martinique. Does represent France at the international level, though. 2 goals last season for Lyon in 19 appearances. And now a chance for what would have been the first goal of her Bayern career for Georgia Stanway. In the end, a relatively comfortable save for Real Sociedad's Lete. Chest and volley would have been special, it has to be said, from Georgia Stanway, who caught the eye not just with her talents, but also that pretty spectacular goal that won the quarter-final tie between England and Spain at the European Championships in the summer. So now 2 final changes for Bayern. Saki Kumagai, the 31-year-old Japanese international, at one end of the age spectrum. Meanwhile, the other player to enter the fray, Franziska Kett, the 17-year-old academy graduate. They replace Linda Dahlmann, the 2-goal scorer, and Sydney Lawman, one of the players of the match tonight. In fairness, actually, I think that really is, it's the debate tonight. Who wins the player of the match? Is it Linda Dahlmann or is it Sydney Lawman? Do you appreciate the goal-scoring exploits of Linda Dahlmann, or the link-up play, the creativity, the wonderful touches we saw from Sydney Lawman tonight? A shot from range, and well, that dipped just over the bar in the end. Rawls didn't look too comfortable in dealing with that danger. But why not have the go from Isagire? Gvin under pressure does well in the end. Kumagai tonight making her 72nd appearance in the Women's Champions League. She's currently 11th all-time in terms of appearance makers. Kumagai also a World Cup winner in 2011 with Japan and a Women's Champions League winner in 2020 with Olympique Lyon. High fives all around, understandably. With a prolific pair on the Bayern benches. Emmeline Laurent almost goes for spectacular effort from range, plucked out of the air by Lete. There has certainly been a goal in the air in this second half. It just looks like it might not be produced in the end. Bayern haven't quite operated with the same urgency going forward as they did in the first half, and understandably so, as they look to manage a game when they were 3-1 up. And I wonder whether that might have been the message from Alexander Strauss, that the priority for him really wouldn't have been adding to the score sheet, but maybe having control on the game, dictating the tempo, showing that they can drop deep and absorb pressure as well. Free kick taken quickly by Real Sociedad. Raul with a bit of a loose touch and a tricky bounce to deal with, as Isagire with another speculative effort. More than capable of causing any goalkeeper in the world problems from there, Neara Isagire. But much like the story of the first leg, Real Sociedad have had chances, but many of them half chances, and racking my memory right now, I can only remember one on target. course, that coming from Stine Jensen to score the goal that gave Real Sociedad a glimmer of hope right on the stroke of half-time. Unfortunately, that hope, I think, was pretty quickly snuffed out by Bayern in this second half when they exerted their measure of control, as we see 3 minutes of time added on at the end of the 90 here at the Bayern campus. 14 goals in 5 games so far to start this season. Well, 7 of those did come in a DFB Pokal tie against second-tier Ingolstadt. Meanwhile, just 1 goal conceded so far this season by Bayern, and of course that goal coming tonight. Perhaps the one blemish on an otherwise near-perfect performance. And there was also a bit of news out of the Bayern camp this week that they will be taking on Tigres Femenil, the Mexican side, when the club tour North America during the winter break and after the World Cup. That friendly set to take place on the 21st of January in Monterrey. There are rumours that there may be 42,000 or more in attendance for that game against CONCACAF's top women's team, Tigres. Part of Bayern's desire to test themselves against the best teams in the world. And they will have a chance to do that in Europe this season, by all accounts, as they look set to book their ticket to the Champions League group stages unless something absolutely miraculous happens here in the final just under 80 seconds. We've seen stranger things in football, but I think even that's a stretch too far. 3 goals in 80 seconds, and that would only take us to extra time as well. It's worth noting. 5 to win it. And of course, all the way to the final whistle from the sidelines. Real Sociedad trying to salvage a little more pride, but a nice clearance has broken well for Bayern here. Oh, and it's just not quite the link-up play that they were hoping for between Franziska Kett and Ivana Damjanovic. The two not quite on the same page there as the young 17-year-old gets a first taste of Champions League action. Scored 8 goals in 18 games with Bayern's women's second team. Big fan of Neymar, Franziska Kett. Says the way he was able to manipulate the ball was always something that impressed her. And when we're talking of impressive, tonight was an impressive performance from Bayern as they booked their ticket to the UEFA Women's Champions League group stages. They came back to Munich with a slender 1-0 lead from the first leg. Tonight, though, more convincing from Alexander Strauss's side as they walk out 3-1 winners on the night. Linda Dahlmann bagged a brace with 2 goals in quick succession. There was a goal in it for Lea Schuller. She marked a milestone moment with her 50th goal for the club. And while Stine Jensen did put a goal back in the first goal conceded by Bayern in the current campaign, it wasn't enough to really turn the tides as Bayern showed great composure and great control in managing the game and seeing out the result. They now book the final ticket to the Women's Champions League group stages, where they will join several of the biggest names in women's European football. 2 German teams in the group stages as Bayern join Frauen Bundesliga champions Wolfsburg. We have already lost Eintracht Frankfurt, who were knocked out in round 1 of the qualifiers. Bayern, though, going one better and storming their way into the group stages with a 4-1 aggregate win clinched by tonight's 3-1 win at the Bayern campus. Signs perhaps that the teething issues under new head coach Alexander Strauss are over. Bayern starting to find their rhythm, starting to find their groove. Still unbeaten this season. Now 4 wins in a row in all competitions. Next up, a away trip to MSV Duisburg in the Frauen Bundesliga. Duisburg, who will be their opponents in the round of 16 of the DFB Pokal. Then there's a home tie against Köln, then an away tie against reigning champions Wolfsburg. When it comes to the Champions League, the group stage draw will take place on October the 3rd. The final this season will be in Eindhoven on either the 3rd or 4th of June. A long way to go until then. Bayern have big aspirations in this competition. Tonight, though, they've got over the first hurdle, and an important first hurdle it is. Bayern will be in the Champions League group stages this season as they look to go one better than last year's quarter-final finish. James Surrogate, your match commentator. It's been my pleasure to bring you coverage of tonight's game. It was quite a game in the end, and while we didn't have any goals in the second half, it was the result that was desired for Bayern. 3-1 on the night, 4-1 on aggregate. Join us again next time.